On April 18, 1775, 900 British regulars left Boston for Concord, just 20 miles to the west. Their objective? To seize ammunition stockpiled there. They left quietly, making their way through Boston streets in the dark, hoping for no advance warning to reach the people of Concord. But spies were about town, members of a network of spies that would soon alert their fellow patriots that the regulars were on the way. The king's well-trained forces marched all night. As the sun rose in the east, the British troops took their position at the eastern end of Lexington Green. The redcoats were formidable. To the ragtag militia on the opposite side, they seemed unbeatable. By nightfall of that day, American patriots had proven otherwise. The fight was on, and the patriots had won the first day. By April of 1775, Great Britain had an army of roughly 7,000 men in the American colonies. 4,000 were concentrated in Massachusetts. Nowhere was the conflict between the Crown and the colonists heating up as quickly as it was in Boston and its surrounding territory. General Thomas Gage, British commander of all troops in America, was intent on seizing weapons and ammunition that would otherwise be used against his men. The stockpile being collected in Concord was the target for April 19th. Under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Francis Smith and Marine Major John Pitcairn, 900 regulars left Boston on the night of April 18th in hopes of catching the citizens of Concord off guard. News of the operation reached Dr. Joseph Warren, a leader in the colonial separatist movement. After the Boston Massacre, Warren had built a network of spies out of his medical office. As soon as he heard reports of the 900 regulars heading west, he dispatched Paul Revere to warn his fellow patriots. Revere ordered 2 lamps to hang from Christ Church, also known as Old North Church, a signal to his contacts across the Charles River that the British would cross by boat and not by land along Boston Neck. 2 friends rowed Revere from the north end of Boston to Charleston. Under the cloak of night, the boat eluded the British warship, the HMS Somerset. Once safely on the other side of the river, Revere borrowed a horse from John Larkin. It was 11 o'clock at night. Just outside of Charleston, Revere was almost captured by the British. He changed his route and headed to Medford, then on to Lexington, where he arrived around midnight. There he warned John Hancock and Samuel Adams that the regulars were coming. In Lexington, Revere was joined by William Dawes, a second rider. The time was about midnight. The 2 men continued on to Concord to make sure the supplies there were secreted away. A third rider, Dr. William Prescott, joined them on the other side of Lexington. All 3 riders ran into a British patrol. Revere was held and questioned, then released, but only after his horse was confiscated. He returned to Lexington by foot, and a few hours later witnessed what happened at the center of town there. Dawes and Prescott escaped capture, but Prescott alone made it to Concord to warn his fellow patriots that the regulars were marching their way. He ordered the town bell to ring and sent out riders to gather the militia. Hours later, dawn broke over Lexington. Pitcairn and 250 of the redcoats moved into position at the eastern end of the town green. Smith and the others remained on the road. On the western end of Lexington Green stood a band of 80 militiamen under the command of Farmer John Parker. Someone from the British side shouted a demand that Parker and his men lay down their arms. "Stand your ground," ordered Parker. "Don't fire unless fired upon. But if they mean to have a war, let it begin here." The Patriots, however, were badly outnumbered. Parker would not surrender. Instead, he ordered his men to disperse. To this day, it is not known who fired first, but as the Americans began to move, a shot rang out. Once fired, however, that shot triggered a battery of fire from the British. 8 Americans were killed, 10 more wounded. Having won the first skirmish, Pitcairn and his men rejoined Smith and the others. The column moved down the road toward Concord, 10 miles away. 300 militiamen had gathered there to confront the advancing redcoats. As the British entered town, the Patriots positioned themselves across the Old North Bridge, west to the other side of the Concord River. The regulars searched the town's homes, but found only a few pieces of ammunition. In the meantime, more militiamen arrived. The numbers of armed patriots grew by 200. Soon the two forces confronted each other from either side of the Old North Bridge. This time the militia got the better of the redcoats. 12 regulars were shot, 9 wounded, and 3 dead. The Crown's army was rattled. They retreated to the road and began marching back to Boston. All along their journey back, militiamen, hidden by the woods on either side of the road, sent sniper fire into the British column. When the regulars stopped to return fire, the Patriots slipped away deeper into the woods. Familiar with the region, they used woods, back roads, and hills to make their way ahead of the enemy and continue to fire into the exposed British line. General Gage had worried such dire straits would strike the expedition. Already, he had ordered 2,000 men to join the regulars dispatched to Concord. The two British forces met just east of Lexington. The original troops were now diminished and exhausted. As the column marched toward Boston, the Patriot militia kept up their relentless sniper fire. Altogether, they inflicted close to 300 casualties on the British. The redcoats made it back to Boston, having wounded or killed roughly 100 of the farmers and tradesmen who opposed them. The whole expedition, however, had gained the British nothing militarily. As for the Patriots, something remarkable happened along the road from Concord and Lexington. There were now 3,500 militiamen present as the defeated British re-entered Boston, a spirited sign to anyone with eyes to see the Americans would fight for their freedom.